On April 18th, 1955, the morning Einstein died. His final manuscript was found on his bedside table. It was covered in equations. 30 years of work, unfinished. The unified field theory, the single equation that would describe every force in the universe, remained beyond his reach until the last hours of his life. 5 ancient traditions had described the unified field thousands of years earlier, in a single word. In 1915, Einstein published his general theory of relativity. It was the most elegant scientific achievement in human history. In one framework, he unified space, time, and gravity. He showed that mass warps the fabric of space-time, that gravity is not a force, it is geometry. And then he spent the next 30 years trying to go further. He wanted to unify gravity with electromagnetism, to find the single underlying equation from which all physical forces emerge. A theory of everything, a unified field. He failed. Not for lack of brilliance, not for lack of effort. He failed because, as several of his closest colleagues later concluded, he was looking in the wrong direction. He was looking for a mathematical structure. The ancient traditions were pointing at an experiential reality. Nikola Tesla, who understood electromagnetic fields more intuitively than almost anyone, came closer to naming it. Tesla wrote, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And more directly, the day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence. Non-physical phenomena. That is precisely where the 5 ancient traditions had been conducting their research. For 3,000 years. To understand why Einstein could not find it, you need to understand precisely what he was looking for. Quantum field theory, the most accurate scientific framework ever constructed, describes each fundamental force as a field permeating all of space. The electromagnetic field, the strong nuclear field, the weak nuclear field, the gravitational field. All 4 appear to be separate. All 4 have different properties, different strengths, different mathematical structures. But physicists have always suspected, and experimental evidence increasingly confirms, that at high enough energies, all 4 collapse into one. A single unified field from which all 4 emerge as expressions. Einstein wanted the equation that describes that field. He never found it. String theory, M theory, loop quantum gravity. The last 50 years of theoretical physics have produced extraordinary mathematical structures, all attempting to describe the unified field. None has been experimentally confirmed. None has produced a testable prediction that clearly distinguishes it from all alternatives. Physicist Lee Smolin, in his landmark critique, The Trouble with Physics, wrote, "We have failed. We have not been able to solve the problem that Einstein posed. We don't know why the constants of nature have the values they do. We don't know why there are 3 dimensions of space. The problem is not computational power. The problem, increasingly suspected by physicists including John Wheeler, David Bohm, and Roger Penrose, is that the unified field may not be purely mathematical. It may involve consciousness, which is precisely where 5 ancient traditions had been pointing all along. The Vedic tradition's answer to the unified field is the most precisely stated of all 5. Brahman. The Upanishads describe Brahman as omnipresent, present, everywhere simultaneously, with no diminishment. The source of all phenomena, all matter, energy, space, and time, arise from Brahman and return to it. Self-luminous, not illuminated by anything else. Awareness itself. Non-dual, not one of many things, but the single ground of all things. The Chandogya Upanishad states, "All this is Brahman. From it the universe comes forth. Into it the universe dissolves, and in it the universe breathes." This is the unified field, described not as a mathematical structure but as an experiential reality accessible through direct investigation. The Hermetic tradition preserved in the Emerald Tablet and the Kybalion names the unified field with characteristic directness. The all is mind, the universe is mental. The Hermetics then describe the all with properties that map precisely onto what physicists expect of the unified field. Infinite, no boundary, no edge, no outside. Omnipresent, equally present at every point in space, simultaneously. The substrate of all physical reality, matter, and energy are vibrations within the all, not separate from it. The Hermetic principle of correspondence then states, "As above, so below." The same field operates at every scale from quantum to cosmic. Einstein's general relativity confirmed scale-invariant geometry. String theory proposes scale-invariant strings. The Hermetics stated scale invariance in 12 words 2,000 years earlier. The Tao Te Ching opens with the most precise description of the unified field in ancient literature. The Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. This is not mystical vagueness. It is a precise philosophical statement about the nature of the field. Any mathematical equation that describes the unified field is a named version of it, a representation, not the thing itself. The Tao, the actual unified field, precedes all representation. It cannot be captured in an equation because equations are phenomena within it. Chapter 25 describes it. There was something formless and perfect before the universe was born. Serene, empty, solitary, unchanging, infinite, eternally present. It is the mother of the universe. Einstein was trying to write the equation for the mother of the universe. Lao Tzu said 2,500 years earlier the equation cannot contain her. The Buddhist tradition offers a concept that modern physicists have found particularly resonant. Dharmadhatu, the field of all phenomena. The infinite expanse within which all things arise, exist, and dissolve. The Avatamsaka Sutra describes it through the metaphor of Indra's net, an infinite lattice of jewels, each perfectly reflecting every other simultaneously. Every point in the field contains the information of the entire field. This is the holographic principle formalized by physicist Leonard Susskind in 1993, that the entire information content of a volume of space can be encoded on its two-dimensional boundary. The Buddhist tradition encoded the holographic principle as a metaphor 2,000 years before Susskind had a name for it, and embedded it within a description of the unified field as its foundational property. The final two witnesses are the most direct. The Sufi philosopher Ibn Arabi, in the 13th century, described Wahdat al-Wujud, the unity of being. There is only one existence. The cosmos is the self-disclosure of the real. The unified field is not a thing that exists alongside other things. It is the only thing that exists expressing itself through infinite apparent multiplicity. The Greek philosopher Plotinus in the 3rd century described the same reality as the One. The One is perfect because it seeks nothing, has nothing, needs nothing. Nothing outside it, nothing beyond it. All phenomena are emanations of the One, not separate entities within a container. 6 traditions. The same field, the same properties, omnipresent, self-luminous, the source of all phenomena, non-dual. Before the convergence, notice something right now. The awareness that is reading these words. Is it inside your head? Or is your head and these words inside it? That question is not a riddle. It is the entry point into what all 6 traditions are describing. The unified field is not something you are inside of. It is something you are made of. And according to every tradition that investigated it directly, you can know this not as a belief, but as a direct observation. Here is what Einstein's 30-year search was missing. Every mathematical framework for the unified field treats consciousness as a byproduct, something that emerges from physical processes, an output of the unified field, not a property of it. But every ancient tradition that described the unified field placed consciousness at its center, not as a byproduct, as the primary substance. John Wheeler, who named the black hole, spent the last decades of his life arguing that information, not matter or energy, is the fundamental constituent of reality. His famous formulation, it from bit, the physical arises from the informational. David Bohm, Einstein's closest collaborator, concluded, the notion of a separate organism is clearly an abstraction. In reality, all parts of the world are woven together in one tissue. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, stated it most directly, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. 3 of the 20th century's greatest physicists arriving from different directions at the same territory the ancient traditions had mapped 3,000 years earlier. Let us see the complete picture. 6 traditions, 6 names, 3,000 years of independent investigation. The Vedic tradition called it Brahman, omnipresent consciousness, the source from which all phenomena arise. The Hermetic tradition called it the mental substrate of reality, the ground from which everything vibrates into existence. The Taoist tradition called it the Tao, the unnamed origin, the field that precedes all representation, all mathematics, all language. The Buddhist tradition called it Dharmadhatu, the holographic field in which every point contains the information of the whole. The Sufi tradition called it Wahdat al-Wujud, the unity of being in which only one existence is real and all apparent separation is its self-reflection. The Greek tradition called it the One Perfect, self-sufficient, needing nothing from which all other realities emanate as expressions. 6 names, 6 civilizations, no documented contact between all 6. Now the properties modern physics assigns to the unified field. Omnipresent, present everywhere simultaneously without diminishment. The source of all forces in matter, all 4 fundamental forces arising from it. Scale invariant, the same field, operating identically from quantum to cosmic. Non-dual, not one of many things, but the single ground of all things. Which tradition does this match? All of them. Every property, every tradition, every cell filled. Einstein spent 30 years looking for the equation. 6 ancient traditions spent 3,000 years looking at the field directly. They found it. The most honest statement of where physics currently stands comes from string theorist Brian Greene. The unified theory remains elusive, but the conviction that it exists, that all forces spring from a single source, is stronger than ever. Stronger than ever, after a century of effort, because the mathematics keeps pointing in one direction, toward a single underlying field. And the philosophers of physics, Wheeler, Bohm, Penrose, Tononi, keep arriving at the same conclusion. That field involves consciousness. Tesla understood this more clearly than Einstein. Tesla wrote in his final years, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence." The non-physical phenomena he was describing, the Vedics called Brahman, the Hermetics called the All, the Taoists called the eternal Tao. Tesla was not a mystic. He was a physicist who had followed the physics to where the mathematics runs out, and found the ancient traditions waiting there. Einstein looked outward at the mathematical structure of space-time. The ancient traditions looked inward at the structure of awareness itself. Both were investigating the same field, from opposite ends of the same investigation. What the ancient traditions had, and physics still lacks, is a methodology for the inward direction, not introspection, not philosophy, a rigorous, systematic, reproducible practice of direct investigation into the nature of awareness itself. Atma Vichara, self-inquiry, the Hermetic great work, Taoist inner alchemy, Buddhist Vipassana, Vipassana, 5 different methods, 5 different traditions, the same unified field approached from the inside. Einstein's final manuscript lay unfinished on his bedside table. The equation he was looking for, the description of the field from which all forces emerge, had been written in Sanskrit, in Egyptian hieroglyphics, in Chinese calligraphy, in Arabic, in ancient Greek, 3,000 years before he was born. Not as an equation, as a direct pointing towards something that can only be known, not calculated. The unified field is not something physics will eventually describe. It is something you already are. Ancient wisdom, quantum proof, direct knowing. This is quantum gnosis.